Keeping voters fired up is not easy while trying to keep yourself warm. It's a cold, rainy day in Milwaukee. Volunteers are knocking on doors, talking to potential voters. They're with the faith-based group Power to the Polls. It's one of many efforts black churches are making to keep people engaged for the midterms. And it seems they have their work cut out for them.
They really just don't trust a system that has disregarded what they feel for centuries.
The Reverend Greg Lewis is executive director of Power to the Polls. He's also assistant pastor at Milwaukee's St. Gabriel's Church of God in Christ. Reverend Lewis says black voters in town can be highly disconnected, even in the recent mayoral election with a black candidate on the ballot.
They asked 25,000 people, do you know there's a mayoral election in your city on April 5th? And 92% didn't know.
92%?
Yes.
That has to be really disheartening for you.
It is.
Particularly as somebody who is in the streets trying to get them to pay attention.
Listen, I'm going to tell you, we have a black county executive in office. We have a black mayor. We have a black treasurer. We have a black city attorney. Most of our common council is black. The opportunity to really grow and develop is here. You know, disheartening is not the word, it's heartbreaking.
Different black ministers are responding differently to this heartbreak. But all the preachers we spoke to said they're acting out of what they believe the Bible would have them do.
If you read the Bible, there's politics in the Bible.
The Reverend Al Sharpton leads the National Action Network, a social justice ministry connecting people of faith to activism.
David was king. That's a political office. Joseph was governor. That's a political office. So where do we get this thing that you cannot be in the spirit of God and in politics?
In Brooklyn, New York, Bishop Leah Daughtry stays active with the Democratic Party nationally. She ran two of its recent conventions, Denver and Philadelphia. The bishop leads the House of the Lord churches, a Pentecostal network of churches with an Afrocentric focus. She says the party can supplement her religious advocacy, but not replace it.
The Democratic Party is a tool. It's a means toward an end. It is not church. It's not designed to be church. They've got their objectives, and I have mine as a faith leader. Sometimes they intersect. Sometimes we're striving for the same things. Sometimes we're not. And so when I size it up, I say the Democratic Party better reflects, not perfectly, but better reflects my values as a Christian than the other party does.
The ministers we spoke to all said their allegiance is to God first. Whoever's politics align with their theology gets their support. And today, those politicians are mostly Democrats. But alignment is not enough. Actions speak much louder, or inactions. Where do you think the Democratic Party is failing its constituents right now? Any places in particular where you think it's really falling short?
Rural black folk very rarely hear from the Democratic Party. I think there are forgotten places where I wish we could do more to address poverty, to address systemic exclusion.
The Reverend William Barber II is co-chair of the Poor People's Campaign, a national call for moral revival. He says the church must speak to how political decisions affect the poor, just as Jesus did.
Whether you're Republican or Democrat, you stand against people having health care. That is a form of injustice and sin. If you are, in fact, Republican or Democrat, and you block living wages while you allow the wealthy to have pornographic sums of money and continue to prosper in their wealth while other folk flounder in their poverty, that is, in fact, sinful. And the role of the church is not to be Democrat or Republican, but to be prophetic.
Reverend Barber says President Biden should persevere on issues of poverty and basic human needs. There are many ways to do that, including through big business. Since 2012, the Barclays Center has been the home of the Brooklyn Nets. That arena serves more than NBA fans. It also serves the community thanks to a unique partnership. The Reverend Herbert Daughtry helped organize that partnership. His activism began back in the 60s during the Civil Rights Movement. He is also Bishop Leah Daughtry's father. Reverend Daughtry says his neighborhood alliance, just a few blocks from the arena, secured community benefits from the Barclays Center. They range from dedicated upper bowl seats for local groups to support for a community health center. There's a level of sophistication to that I don't think black folks are ever associated with, right, especially with something that is both business related and political.
Right.
Are maybe the political aspirations in terms of how the Democratic Party and black churches interface, are they too small? Are they thinking too small?
I don't think so. I took the position you do not absolutize your strategy on your way to liberation. You have to use this, you have to use that.
The Barclay Center deal speaks to something all the preachers we spoke to brought up. In their views, people need to see the concrete results of political decisions, things they can point to that motivate them to vote. Reverend Daughtry says the people he talks to are also motivated by something else, their fear over today's increasingly extreme politics.
I think there is a deep, deep feeling among white Americans that they have taken our country and we have nothing to lose. And therefore, whatever we do is going to be all right. I think we saw January the 6th in Washington some of this sentiment, some of this feeling that they feel they have nothing to lose. I'm not sure how many white politicians grasp the danger that is out there.
Those concerns may speak to a larger issue that came up in all our conversations, the feeling of being taken for granted. But when churches mobilize, they can reshape elections. But it's not easy to get voters fired up, especially without a big race on the ballot. Reverend Lewis says his own fire goes out often.
Yeah, I quit every day, man. And like you understand, how frustrating it can be. You can't even imagine because, you said something, man, I'm not responsible for you. But see, that's why it hurts me so much because I know that I am.
You feel that responsibility. What is that responsibility? Can you elaborate on that?
See, I know these people, and that's why I don't give up, because I can see it. I know one of these days, wow, things are going to be different. I know it. So if I stop now, the blessing God has for us, for me, will be lost. So I can't stop.
Black churches are chasing that blessing as they see it in many ways. So how should Democrats who want their votes chase after them? Reverend Al Sharpton says all politicians need to be real with black voters and say what they really believe, not just what they think voters want to hear.
One of the reasons I had a great working relationship with Barack Obama is from day one. He said, I'm not going to do everything you want me to do, and I'm not going to say everything you want me to say. But I agree with you on these basic things. We're going to disagree with that. And that's
why you liked him?
That's why I liked him, because I said, I can at least trust what this guy says.
When it comes to winning elections, Bishop Leah Daughtry says Democrats need to articulate their accomplishments so voters can remember them.
Look, Joe Biden has created more jobs in his 1.5 years as president than the last 4 Republican presidents combined. How do you tell people that? People know that they're working. So how do you make that a win? How do you make the new roads and the new bridges? How do you make health care, all the things? How do you make cutting child poverty in half a win and let that relate to people's lives every single day so that they feel compelled to see that kind of progress continue and to do their part to make it continue.
As for what to work on next, Reverend William Barber suggests a more holistic approach. Voting rights get a lot of attention, but he says it should be part of an overarching push for social justice.
That's one thing I've learned clearly. You must have a moral fusion approach. You never just allow your position to just be just one thing, like what one thing needs to be changed. You have to show the interlocking injustices and evil require an intersectional response. And as an African-American clergy, you must build fusion alliances.
And as heartbreaking as his activism can be, Reverend Lewis says some things do keep voters plugged in.
You're not going to have elections every year. So there's something else that you need to be generating some energy about in these off-election years. And that's what we've chosen, the housing.
Perhaps it's an issue at the House's Power to the Polls visits. Stephanie Johnson is the group's field coordinator. Knocking on doors can feel uncertain, even awkward, but she says it's worth it.
I invested in Milwaukee. You know, I've had some tragedies happen here, and I'm invested in making this a better city for us, you know, us of color, because we've been overlooked for too long.
The rain made for a short day of canvassing. They plan to keep at it ahead of the midterms, doing what they feel called to do. Reverend Herbert Daughtry says his 91 years on this earth have given him plenty to worry about, but not enough to dim his hope. It is one of the promises of the New Testament, a harvest at the proper time for those who do not give up.
This is our legacy. This is what has been bequeathed to us. This is what I teach my children. And as you can probably see from here, is that we are going to win. You are going to be successful. God has programmed you for success. Don't you program yourself for failure.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Follow today's top stories and breaking news by downloading the NBC News app.